This video demonstrates the standard change handling workflow. Standard changes is a workflow you use when you wish to introduce some predefined changes which are well known and the impact is not a danger to your infrastructure, but you still wish to log what is being done. The workflow consists of 3.5 roles: the change manager, somebody who will authorize this particular standard change implementation, operations who will actually deploy it, and the half role is the requester who will request this particular standard change. Let's see how this looks in reality, and I will take you through the entire workflow as it's not very large. Being the requester, I will now ask for a standard change being deployed. I will scroll down my list of available workflows, and here it is, operational standard change handling. So I will select this one. And what is required? It's required that I choose a list of predefined standard changes. In this example, we only have 5 different, but you of course might have as many as you need in your organization. Let's say that I wish to deploy some monitoring agents. And I'm not very specific, but I remember to write that it's on a server at least. I have to choose whether downtime is required or not, and let's just say it's not required in this particular case. And I might choose an implementation date, not that I have to, but it's optional and I can do so. I can say that I wish to have this done Monday or Tuesday. Okay, let's submit. And my standard change is now handed over to the change management. Let's be the change management. We will look into our space. And here we have the request: deploy monitoring agents on a server, please. As we can see, I have this blue pencil, which means that I'm allowed as change manager to enter the request and see what is being asked for. And I can scroll down the requests, and if I'm not quite happy with the content, I might add something because I wish to know which server it is, and it happens that I know that it should be on server 3. That makes me happy. And in the left pane, we now will be able to move on to the next stage, coordinating. So we will press the blue button, and we will now hand over the request to the authorizer. So let's jump over to the authorizer role, who will look into my space, and here it is. Deploy monitoring agents, and we will dive into this request, and we will glance through the requests, and if we are all happy, we can say, okay, this change request or standard change is now ready for deployment. So we don't have to add anything necessarily, but we can just hand it over to the operations and ask for deployment. Done here. So now it's in the hands of operations. So let's jump over to the operations role. Operations will look into my space and discover that we now received this standard change. We will glance into the standard change, And as we can see, we are now in the deployment stage and we cannot proceed any further. And why is that? Because we have to choose a closure code. So let's just say that we have deployed this standard change and all went well, so it's solved. We don't have to write anything in the closure comments, especially if anything just went as expected. So let's save this request. And now in the left pane, it's possible to move on to the next stage, which will hand back the standard change to the change manager. So let's do that. Review and close. Now it's handed over to the change manager. So let's jump back to the change manager role. We will look into our space and see that we now receive this standard change again. We will dive into the standard change and see that everything went as expected. So we can just now press done and closing because all are happy. And as the guidance says, being in the done and closing stage, this standard change will remain open for the next 2 weeks. But if we are certainly sure that nobody will complain if we close it finally, we may just choose finalized, and this standard change is very closed. So this was a walkthrough the standard change handling workflow. Very simple, but very effective.